Estacada School District community. So great to be back on Facebook Live. Estacada Schools is one of the few districts across the United States that comes onto this social media platform to truly address and tackle hot topic issues and talk about key decisions inside our great Estacada School District. My name is Ryan Carpenter, and I so proudly serve as the superintendent for this great school district. And tonight's going to be a big show, so I want to welcome those who are here from the beginning, as well as those who jump in late, and also a big welcome and thank you to those who watch a delayed version of this. We're just so grateful for all of the people who show up to participate as we talk about your local public school district. And tonight's going to be a very big night, and so I'm very excited to jump right into it. We really have two big topics to address tonight, and I'm so eager to get your comments, your feedback, your questions, your opinions, so that we can work through them together as a team. Our first topic tonight, which was pre-scheduled, this was the whole intention of this Facebook Live, was to give me, your superintendent, the opportunity to roll out our district survey results. As many of you know, and many of you completed the parent satisfaction survey. And as a representative of your elected school board of directors, it is my responsibility to share back with you those results, as well as some of the areas where we're collecting and harvesting as wins, and some opportunities for growth and improvement. And I really hope that you'll participate with me tonight to help me, the leader of the Estacada School District, to develop and implement some improvement plans so that we can make all of our parents' experiences here in their local school district a great experience. I'm so excited to share those results, and I'm so excited to lead and share and participate in that conversation. So as we go through the parent survey rollout, please do not be shy, do not be bashful. Enter in your comments into the chat, enter in your questions. I'm very excited to hear about your experiences, to get some seconds and some support and some validation for the things we're doing well, including your suggestions and ideas of ways that we can improve different things around our entire school district. That's the primary reason of this Facebook Live tonight, and I'm very excited to jump into it. Now, some of you may be focused on some of the toil and turn and turmoil and controversy around the Oregon Teen Health Survey. I think we've broken a record, at least in our monitoring, of over 300 different comments regarding this, quote, very contentious or tricky survey in terms of just the politics and values. And I'm very excited tonight to really spend a lot of time in this evening to be able to address some of those concerns and some of those hot topic political issues. And so if you have joined this Facebook Live tonight because you were either a part of that group chat or were, like many others, just a viewer and spectator of that group chat, I'm very excited to have you be a part of this conversation tonight. And I do ask that you hang in there with me because we will get to it. And my goal tonight is to be able to answer any question, address any concern, and talk about this together as a community, as a parent group, and how the school district utilizes the data of this survey. And I hope at the end of this conversation, you'll find this piece valuable as we move forward together. So again, thanks so much for joining me. This is now the time to start punching in those questions and typing in those comments so that when we get to the point of our question and answers, we have the opportunity to really hit and touch each and every single person's questions and comments. So please continue to do so. But first, I want to start with our parent satisfaction survey. So about a month ago, we sent a survey out to all of our parents inside the Estacada School District, and we really had a tremendous participation rate. I want to thank everybody who took the time to fill out that survey. And I know many of you families, including myself, have multiple kids at multiple buildings, which required you to have to fill out that survey multiple times to give your perspective and experience and satisfaction at one school, and then turn around and give it again to another school, or in some cases, 3 different schools. So I'm greatly appreciative of what you're doing and how you help with your voice make our school district better. So before I begin, I just want to remind folks that the Estacada School District is anchored to our strategic plan. This 5-year strategic plan was built by the community, and it was approved by your elected elected school board of directors. And the school board hired me to execute this strategic plan, and I have hired over 300 employees to help me execute this very strategic plan on a daily basis. This is year 3 of our 5-year strategic plan, and I'm excited to share with you that in the course of this particular strategic plan, the Estacada School District has collected accomplishments and notorieties both locally, from the state level, and also nationally. We have just really had some great victories while executing your strategic plan. One of the first things I want to share is 3 years in a row, over the course of this strategic plan, the employees of the Estacada School District has ranked the Estacada School District organization as a top workplace in the state of Oregon. This is their vote, this is their voice. This should tell you that the 300 employees who work in your local school district are proud to be an employee of the Estacada School District, and verify and validate the great culture and the great community that this is. One of the cool things is just this last year, the score ranking from our employees was so high that our score elevated us to a national top workplace ranking. The first time in our history we've ever accomplished such a thing, and we're the first public school district in America to achieve this ranking, as we compete with other public companies and private companies just the same. So this is something that I am extremely proud of, and I hope that you would share that pride with me, that the people that we have working for us have ranked this one of the top places to work, not only in the state of Oregon, but across the United States. If you look at that GFOA logo, that is an award for our audit. We know in this community how important it is to be trustworthy with our taxpayers' finances. This is your money. And last year, we accomplished an award. It's a national award, but we were one of only 13 school districts in the entire state of Oregon to win this Clean Audit Award. And so I hope that that is a piece of evidence for you that tells you we're doing legal and ethical things with your taxpayer money, and we are putting it primarily towards ensuring that our students have a safe, warm, and dry place to learn, and it's leading to student achievement results in great fashion. So that's a really great award. We've also achieved many individual recognitions, but the other thing I want to talk about is some of our students' recognitions as well. If you see that volleyball symbol there, last year, our first ever men's volleyball team won the 4A state championship. If you look at the logo just above that, our great and very own Abby Berman won 2 state championships in field events during the track season last year. And Andrew Rydell last year won the state championship in solo competition singing. We are so proud of these kids, but the reason why I point this out is because, as many of you know, this school district, along with making its investment in academics, we also make considerable investments in our athletics programs and in our arts programs. And what pleases me is, as we look at return on investment, we are seeing students who are participating in extracurricular activities thrive, and they are competing at the state level each and every single year. We had multiple athletic teams make the playoffs again this year. We want our kids to compete at the highest levels in the best venues, ultimately to have the best experience. For many of us who grew up playing high school sports and athletics, we know that as we look back on those times, those are some of our best memories of our lives. They're also the life lessons that we learned that shaped who we are today. And so I cannot underline enough how important our investments in academics, of course, but also in the athletics and arts. And so over the last 3 years of this strategic plan, the Estacada School District is thriving, and this should be evidence to you to note that great things are happening here and what we're doing is working. So I'm really excited about that, and I'm excited to share that with you this evening. So let's talk about your voice, our parents' voice. In the last parent satisfaction survey, which just got completed last month and the data is finally here, parents of the Estacada School District scored their schools a 3.91 out of 5. Now, this is excellent for two reasons. One, we still have a lot of opportunities and a lot of room to improve as an organization, as our goal is to continue to get to that 5-point score. That being said, I'm excited to share with you this evening that 3.91 is the highest score we have ever scored in the fall, beginning of the school year. If you look at the data in 2022, parents scored their school district a 3.66. In 2023, parents scored their school district a 3.74. 2024, that was last year, a 3.84, and then a 3.91 now. So you can see over the last 4 years with your own eyes that our growth in trust, in faith, in satisfaction continues to climb the ladder. And this 3.91 is the highest that we have ever scored while conducting this survey. We are so excited about that, and thank you for recognizing the intentional changes that we are making, and thank you for allowing us to earn your trust as we continue to climb that ladder. Here are the top 3 scores from the survey from the voices of our parents. The first one scored a 4.26 out of 5. I am treated with respect at this school. I cannot tell you how proud and pleased and humbled I am that that is the top score. We want to have service excellence. We want people to feel welcomed as they walk into their local community school district. And the fact that you told us that this is number 1 is validation of hard work and feeling welcomed and feeling approachable and feeling like this is your school. The second score was a 4.16. I feel comfortable approaching school administration. Again, when you compare this number and this experience with other parents at other school districts, this score is not necessarily the same. We have brought together over the last several years some of the most talented and best school administrators that I have seen here in my 17 years in this district. And so I'm so appreciative that you feel like there's an open line of communication between yourself and your building principal in order to help support your child and our community's children. This is just fantastic. The third highest ranked score was a 4.09, and that is, I believe the teachers, staff, and administration at this school demonstrate a genuine concern for my child. One of the cool things about raising our children in a small community is we get the opportunity to know everybody by name. And the other thing I love about Estacada is our village really does participate in the raising of all children. One of the things I love most about Estacada. But the fact that you can tell us with high marks that we're building great relationships with our kids, ultimately leading to learning at high levels is just really special. And so I hope that you get to see these great wins and these results to validate your own experience inside our great school district, because it's where the majority of our parents are. And I'm so thankful for that feedback, and we will continue to keep doing the things we're doing to keep these scores high. Now, as we look at opportunities for growth inside our school district, here are the 3 lowest scoring sections of that survey. And the first one, we have 2 that are tied for the bottom that scored a 3.51 out of 5. And the first one is, I regularly receive feedback from my school staff on how well my child is learning. And the second one is, I receive positive phone calls, emails, or notes about my child from school. Now, these are great pieces of feedback for us, and we all, from the superintendent, the boardroom, all the way to the classroom, we share a responsibility in meeting your needs when it comes to communication. Now, I'm going to show you where you're actually telling us communication is great, but what we're doing at the classroom level when it comes to learning is an opportunity for us to improve. And I can tell you that our great team of teachers, our great team of principals, and our great team of district office leaders We're already formulating plans in hopes that we can improve that over the course of the school year. But your voice matters here, and I'm so thankful to see this type of communication as an opportunity and room for us to grow. The third lowest score is a 3.76, and that is, I believe school rules are enforced fairly. Now, while that's our third lowest score, and I recognize that, and I'm super happy for your feedback here, I'm also very excited to share with you that this is the highest score we have ever scored in this particular section. This one has always been ranked in the bottom 3. Last year, it started as a 3.56. So from last fall to this fall, over the course of 12 months, we've already improved that by 0.20. Last year, we introduced an entirely new software system to better report student behavior and enforce school rules. We've calibrated with our administrative staff to make sure students are being treated fairly, and we're giving equal consequences to specific infractions based on the circumstances. And our principals and vice principals have done a tremendous job of following through, communicating with parents, and talking about discipline procedures. And even though it's still an opportunity for us to grow, and I recognize that, and we are 100% committed to that, I'm also excited to share that this is another example of a score that keeps growing in the right direction. So in that survey, you had the opportunity to write in open-ended format different things that are going well inside our school district, to be more specific than just the survey questions. I've read, first of all, each and every single one of your comments personally, and I have taken all of these comments and I've placed them into 2 major themes. And the first theme of what's going well inside our school district is strong relationships and a supportive culture. And I cannot tell you how good it feels to be recognized as a school district that builds great relationships with students and families, and has a supportive culture to help students get through some of the challenging barriers of learning. The second thing is effective communication and meaningful learning opportunities. Again, like I told you, you are telling us that our school district is communicating well. And in fact, some of you are telling me you're getting overloaded with communication. And while there is a happy balance, especially if you have multiple kids involved in multiple activities, including youth athletics, I know firsthand just how many things I'm getting from a communication perspective. But I would much rather be accused of over-communicating than under-communicating. And so this, to me, is a tremendous win, and I thank you for your feedback in that. That being said, some opportunities still exist for us to improve our communication around learning, around achievement, and around ways we can get your child caught back up to grade level learning. Again, I took your comments from areas that we can improve. I read each and every single one, and I have also lumped them into 2 main themes or categories. And the first is timely and actionable communication. Now, this is a tremendous specific thing, and it says parents want clearer, earlier, and more consistent information, especially about grades, missing work, read day invitations, and what to practice at home. This is super specific, constructive, and helpful for us. These are the very things that we're going to work on in an effort to improve that. We got tremendous feedback from you, and I'm so grateful for it. Thank you so much. The second thing is inclusion, behavior, and tiered supports. Families describe strain from large class sizes, limited para-educator support, plus uneven behavior management that disrupts learning and fuels perceptions that inclusion isn't working. Again, I so greatly appreciate just your honesty around this piece, and I would agree that we still have lots of work to do when it comes to including all students into the general education classroom setting with their age level peers at their neighborhood school. We deeply believe in that. We know it is making a life-changing difference for all kids, but at the same time, we still have a lot of work to do. But I do just want to hunker for a little bit on that perception, and I'd like to share with you some data in terms of what our school district has invested in an effort to work on that classroom management and to work on classroom safety and to make sure all kids are thriving in the classroom, which is where they rightfully belong. And so this is our current special education paraeducator to student served by special education ratio. If you look on the left-hand side, these are the ratios that our school district strives to hit when it comes to staffing levels. At the elementary level, we try to have 7 paraeducators or case managers, one of the 2 people, or 7 students to 1 paraeducator or case manager. At the middle school level, we try to be at a 9-to-1 ratio. In the high school, we strive to be at an 11-to-1 ratio. If you look at the yellow lettering, and I know it's small, especially for those of you who are good sports watching this on your phone right now, in the yellow area, here are 3 national data points of how we based this scientific ratio perspective. The New York State Department of Education, they recommend an 8-student-to-1 ratio. The United Federation of Teachers, that's one of the national teachers unions across the country, they recommend a 12-to-1 at the elementary level. And Minnesota has a state law that mandates all school districts work at a 16-student-to-1 paraeducator or case manager ratio. So since 2019, which is when I became the superintendent, I just wanted to share with you what our school district has invested in when it comes to people to support our inclusive practices model. Since 2019, when I first was hired, we had 22 paraeducators. We have now doubled that to 46. We've increased our paraeducator hours from 30 hours a week to 35 hours a week, a 17% increase for each paraeducator. When I first started here, we had a half-time school psychologist to work through behavior support plans, functional behavior assessments. We now in our school district have 3 full-time school psychologists. We've doubled our case managers or learning specialists from 6 to 12. We started with 0 lunch recess monitors, and once we discovered that there was a lot of issues happening on the playground and we were pulling our paraeducators to supervise recess when we want our paraeducators in the classroom assisting kids with their accommodations to learn at grade level. And so we've gone from 0 to 11 lunch recess monitors. We've included 2 brand new campus security monitors at the high school and the middle school. And just last year, because we noticed some hot spots inside our kindergarten area, we also added 7 kindergarten-only paraeducators. Now this is important because at Clackamas River Elementary School, we have 2 kindergarten classes and 3 kindergarten paraeducators. And at Rivermill Elementary School, we have 3 kindergarten classes and 4 kindergarten paraeducators. These kindergarten paras are not included in the ratio. They are supporting our kindergarten teachers to help teach routines and behaviors and support in that. And so since 2019, the Estacada School District has added 52.5 people to support inclusive practices, ensuring that all children who walk into the doors of our great schools get the opportunity to engage in education in a neighborhood school, in a classroom with their age level peers, ultimately allowing all kids to have success at life. If you see on the right, you can see the para ratio, special education ratio, and we're doing quite well. So how is it working? Because again, in some of the comments, people said the perception looks as if it's not working. Well, here's some really good data to tell you that this hard work is in fact making a difference. And let's talk about behavior being number 1. One of the things we never want in our school district is for students to hit, bite, or kick our teachers. We want to protect our hardworking professionals, and we really want to make sure that our classroom environments are safe. In the year 22-23 is when we had a major spike in these behavior escalations in the classroom. And over the course of the school year, 87 employees were hit, bit, or kicked by our students. Not all of these students are served by special education, it's just all students in general. And so we knew as an organization that we had to make some drastic changes to support our employees, but also to just deploy different skills and strategies and tactics to try to curb this type of behavior, allowing for more opportunities for kids to learn in the classroom. And so the good news is since 22-23, where we had 87 instances of that, over the last 3 years, we have cut that entirely in half. And last year we had 46 of these instances. Now again, I don't want one of these circumstances, and we use our school rules and policies to work through that process. But I am happy to share that, of course, we're very closely following that data again this year, and in August this year we had 1, in September we had 6, and in October we had 8. Now I'm excited about this October 8 because this is typically when we start to see behavioral spikes inside our school district. The first part of the year is really about building relationships, establishing routines, and really working through the processes of day-to-day life inside every single classroom. But really when October hits is when rigorous learning occurs. And when advanced learning occurs, that's typically when students show or display their inability to learn at that level at the moment, or their self-ejection from completing those learning tasks and or projects, and some communicate that through behavioral outbursts. And so the fact that this is an 8 and the month of October is over tells me, 1, we're not there yet, but 2, we are continuing to see growth and improvement. And the credit goes to all of the employees who are working in the front lines to support this culture, to support this behavior, and to support the accommodations that our students need to access learning from their classroom highly qualified teacher. So very excited about that data, even though we still have a long ways to go to get to where our goals truly are. If you look at the 21-22 data, we conducted 9 restraints where we had to legally and ethically, through training, actually put hands on a kid and restrain them from other safety issues. The cool thing is now, over the last 3 years, in 22-23 we had 2, 23-24 we had 1, and last year we only had 1. So we're getting better at mitigating the processes and proactively working through different strategies to try to avoid these types of situations. This is a big thumbs up. The other good news is when you look at the behavior safety assessment data, you can see that our safety plans and our safety meetings are increasing. And while this may look alarming to you, I actually think it's a considerable win for our organization, because now we're getting better at identifying students who need safety supports, who need behavior plans, and our great team of school psychologists, school counselors, learning specialists, paraeducators, and classroom teachers, especially also our principals and vice principals, we're coming together as a team with parents in an effort to build plans to allow kids to have the most success. So here are 3 data points just to talk about what we've invested into special education, what we've invested into our inclusive practices, which is all students inside our school district, and how we're seeing improvement over the last 4 or 5 years, which is leading to meaningful growth. And so how is this working for us academically? Really quite well. So in 2017 and 18, if you look at the right-hand column, this was before we were an inclusive school district. And we were a nightmare, and I'll be the first to admit that. The Oregon Department of Education flagged us for multiple special education violations and malpractice, and what we were doing clearly was not working. And how can I prove that? If you look at at that little tiny line graph in the top left-hand corner, that bottom line represents Estacada's on-time graduation rate. We were by far the worst school district in the county when it came to graduating students on time. And yes, special education plays a very big role in that. The rest of the bar graph lines that are all kind of clustered together, that's the 9 other school districts inside Clackamas County. So when you look at our history of Estacada's graduation rate to where every other school district was, we were hurting. So we made the adjustment to move to an inclusive practices setting. We wanted our best teachers working with our most complex students, and we wanted to support that with more adult bodies inside the general education classroom. I've shared our story of how we've improved the behavior of that experience, but if you look at the 2024 dateline, you'll notice that 92% of all kids served by special education are experiencing their classroom and school experience in a general education classroom setting. Now, fast forward from 2018 to the graduation year of 24-25, the Estacada School District has climbed like a rocket ship, and your local school district now has the 3rd best on-time graduation rate in the entire Clackamas County. There are only 2 school districts ahead of us. Tell me how this sounds. Lake Oswego School District, Westland Wilsonville School District, Estacada. I think that's fantastic, and this is testament and testimony to hard work, blood, sweat, and tears from our employees, but this model works, and the learning data behind it speaks entirely for itself. Just another quick data point when it comes to social emotional awareness, self-management, and emotional regulation. This is also a survey that is given to students on special education. Case managers sometimes take this on behalf of students and work with them. And you can see here, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but even from a self-management perspective, feeling like they belong in our schools and in our school district, and being able to emotionally regulate themselves, that's the behavior that I'm talking about from 23-24 to this current fall across the board. We are seeing growth in all areas. And so inclusive practices is working. The data is telling us to keep doing it, and we're making little tweaks, sometimes on a daily basis, in an effort to improve our own strategies as we work with your children and children of this community in an effort to get them to learn at grade level, in high levels, and ultimately graduate on time. Moving on to student voice, and I'm going to be very quick here because I know there's a big hot topic that people are excited about. But again, please put in some comments about this survey. Please ask questions if you'd like to. I'm going to address those first before I move on to the Healthy Teen Survey. But from the voice of our students, we scored a 3.94 out of 5. Again, this is the highest fall score we have ever achieved in the 7 years of conducting this survey. Your children told us the top 3 things they love about our schools is 1, I enjoy specials or electives, and boy, do we have some great ones with some great teachers leading it. The second one at 4.2 is I believe learning is important at my school district. That's critical. We want them to be that. We want that to be in our top 3. And 4.19 is I believe my principal is a good leader. Even the kids can identify great leadership, and I'm so excited to see this as a result from the voices of our children. The bottom 3 scoring ones is I feel students are nice or show respect to each other at my school. This has continually been one of the low 3, and we are always working on this and trying to build a better culture. This is improving, by the way, but we still have a lot of work to do here. 3.52, I like going to my school each day, a very critical bullet point for us to look through. And 3.72, I feel like I belong at school. This one actually grew tremendously from last fall to this fall, but it's still in our bottom 3, which requires us, your organization, to build improvement plans in an effort to go there. Just very quickly, I told you about some of the accomplishments from our employees and their voice, but we scored a 4.17 this year out of 5. You can see what their top 3 are when it comes to that, and that is they believe that their work positively impacts those they serve. That means that our employees are seeing the difference that they're making on a daily basis when working with your children. That's amazing, and I'm just so pleased about that. And here are the bottom 3 opportunities for our school district to improve with our employees, because recruitment and retention is critical. As our employees build relationships with your kids, we want that stability, but we also want to make sure we're bringing in the best and the brightest into Estacada. The cool thing, just really quickly, I'm going to go sidebar here for a second. One of the things that I've noticed about our school district and the accolades that we've accomplished to this process is we now have educators who are seeking us out for our inclusive practices works, for our Do For model PLCs, which we do on Fridays, for our read days in the 4-day week, for our continuous improvement and short cycles of improvement strategies that we do inside the classroom. And so there are so many great things that are happening. Also, standards-based grading. And so now I'm starting to receive emails from educators currently working in school districts around the state, and from educators who are working across the United States who have read about our story. We're published in 4 books. We've been talked about in 2 national magazines. And so people are reaching out to us that says, hey, if you have a 3rd grade opening, let me know. I'm moving my family to Estacada, Oregon. We're all in. What a tremendous accomplishment. And so that makes me feel better knowing that if we do have people who leave our organization, we can fill that with excellent educators who deeply believe in this work. This is rare air for us. We have never been in this category before. Typically, we're begging and scraping in some occasions for just to fill spots. This year and last year, we're seeing a tremendous influx of people who desire to work in our school district, and that only makes us better. So excited about that process. And so what do we do with all of this survey data that I shared with you? Again, this data has to mean something, and we have to hold ourselves accountable to you for making improvements based on your voice. And so in alignment with that strategic plan, which is what I started with today, this is how the board holds me accountable and how I hold our organizational accountable, because at the end of the day, we have to fulfill what we promised to you, what we said we would do. And so we create this scorecard each and every single year. You can see on the right-hand side the survey data that I just shared with you. And in the column just left of that, in little tiny words, but the red numbers is our benchmark goals this year. So when it comes to parent satisfaction, I told you we scored a 3.91. Our goal is by the end of the school year to score a 4.01. That is scientifically in a nationally normed survey, that represents meaningful movement. And so you can expect our organization to make intentional strategy changes in an effort to improve your experience with our school district. I hope that this is helpful to you and helps you better understand how our organization works, how we make systems improvements, and how we hold ourselves accountable. You hold us accountable to doing the things we said we would do, and your voice is the driver of those improvement efforts. And so I'm just grateful for all of those who participated in the survey. Your voice does matter, and now you're going to start to see change strategies occur in an effort to improve systems based on that voice. I'm going to pause here for a second to let Communications Director Maggie Kelly go through some of the comments and questions if they exist. The only thing I ask Maggie is I'd like these questions and comments to be specifically about the survey. As soon as we're done with this question and answer process, we're going to talk about that hot topic and contentious issue of that Oregon Healthy Teen Survey. So if you're here just for that, thank you for your patience. I hope the first part was helpful to you in better understanding how your school district works. We're gonna get to that next. And so please don't feel missed or looked over or your question is avoided. Absolutely not. We're gonna hit that thing here in about 10 minutes.
Thank you, Superintendent Carpenter. We only have 2 total questions
Yay,
at this time.
less
so
than 10 minutes.
Put in your questions if you have them. We look forward to answering them. Our first comment is from Rachel in regard to us getting the amount of communication to families right. She said, if my kid's teacher is reading this, please don't send me additional feedback. I'll keep checking PowerSchool. I don't need extra emails.
Yeah.
Which is just testament to how hard it is to get those levels right of information you need to know, but not too overwhelmed.
Yeah, there really is information overload, and that is one thing that we are taking a look at, because one of the problems is we're sending so much that some important things are getting missed and overlooked, and we most certainly don't want that. We do need to find a sweet spot, but everyone's communications expectations, so I've learned over the years, is different to the individual, and how they receive that information is also different. So great feedback, and I thank you so much for participating in that.
And then our second comment also from Rachel in regards to our student feedback on the great electives that we offer. She said that wilderness class has been such a cool elective, and her daughter's been fishing, building fires, and now doing archery, which is pretty cool.
Yes, absolutely. First of all, that class is led by one of the great teachers we have in this organization named Bethy Rossas. It's at the middle school. If your kids are coming into the middle school, I highly recommend signing up for it. Again, we're one of the rare school districts that really prioritizes outdoor experiences. And so Bethy does take them up to the lake. They get fishing licenses. They fish at the pond. She teaches everybody how to clean fish. She teaches them how to build and start fires for survival purposes. It's an amazing class. Kids absolutely love it. So thank you, Rachel, for that shout out. Is that everything we got so far?
That's it at this time, but we're waiting.
Hopefully everybody's waiting for this specific topic, and I'm excited to jump into it. So many of you saw on Facebook over the last week quite a bit of emotion around the Oregon Healthy Teens Survey, which was administered to our students on last Tuesday. Let me tell you a little bit about this survey first to just better understand what it is and why we do it. First of all, the Oregon Healthy Teens Survey is a state-required survey. We are required to give this survey to students, much like the state testing. We have been doing this survey, the state survey, for 10 years. And so this is something that has been going traditionally in our school district for a very long time. Who this survey captures is 6th graders, 8th graders, and 11th graders. So there are only 3 grade levels who participate in this survey. And again, we are required to provide this survey based on the state of Oregon's requirements. Let me go through a couple myths and rumors of untruths in social media. We do not pay for this survey. We do not volunteer to do this survey. We cannot make changes to this survey. Here's a fun one. I personally did not make up this survey. I don't have time for that. And so that did not happen either. There's also a very easy opt-out process to this survey, just like state testing. The school district sent parents in a communication the opportunity to do it. Our principals and vice principals know exactly how to navigate parents through the process, and it's just a simple form that they need to sign, and many parents choose to opt out of this survey, and that's harm-free, free of charge. We don't care who participates in the survey, we just have to administer the survey. And so every family has the opportunity to not participate in that survey should they choose not to. Last year, if you can kind of see the small numbers on this data, statewide, 62,251 students in the state of Oregon took this survey. That represented 139 Oregon school districts, 533 schools, and 35 counties inside the state of Oregon. Now, what this survey covers is it covers overall health of children. It talks about climate change. I know that's a hot topic on both sides for different families. It talks about social media use and social media connection to learning, attendance, and mental health behaviors. It talks about demographics of students and who is our population. It talks about positive youth development like school climate, absenteeism, and bullying. It asks about mental health, access to health care, dental care, eye care. It also talks about sexual health, dating violence, and sexual violence, substance use and drug-free communities, including gambling, which is becoming a bigger issue with online sports betting apps, believe it or not. And it talks about the measurements and how things work. And so really the holistic survey provides some pretty interesting data, but I also do understand how some of these questions are very sensitive to families, particularly in alignment with values. I 100% get that, and there's an easy opportunity to not participate in this survey should you choose not to. But the one folks got pretty riled up about in this survey this year, and by the way, we've been doing this for 10 years. I have worked with dozens of families on this survey, and typically I've been able to work with them person to person, been able to kind of talk about it, and then families are good. They make their decisions, whatever they choose, and we move forward. This is actually the first year in my 10 years that I've seen people emotionally get charged and go directly to social media to air their grievances. And so this survey question has always been there. It has always been the same. I understand the controversy behind it. I'm not blaming that even in the slightest. I'm just saying this is the first time I have seen some folks get this riled up about this particular issue. So what is that question, you might ask? Well, here it is. If you can see in the red box right here, it's question number 26, and it is, what is your sexual orientation? You can choose more than one. Now, what makes this question, I think, ethically questionable is this is a question they asked to both 6th graders, 8th graders, and 11th graders. And our community, based on the data that I saw on social media, has a real issue with 6th graders taking or answering this question. So I've had a lot of people ask me personally, Ryan, do you think that question is appropriate for 6th graders? I personally do not think that that question is appropriate for 6th graders. And if I had a magic wand, I personally would remove that question from the 6th grade answer. But I do not have that ability, nor do I have that authority. This is a nationally normed test, and I don't have the ability to offer it. My personal values, this is what I believe. But I know there's also a lot of other families who are watching this right now that do not have any ethical problems with this particular question, and that's okay too. We need to understand all sides of this process. I do want to say, though, that even though I personally don't support that specific question, I do support the information that this survey provides me as the leader of this school district and as the leader of this organization who is charged with educating this community's children. A few controversial questions are in this survey. I will not deny that. But there are even more very important questions, and the data highlights our at-risk students and how they compare to other students in the state of Oregon. This is very important information to me, and it gives me the opportunity to be a better leader in activating different pieces of our community to support us in what I would consider at-risk behaviors. So just for fun, do you want to see last year's results to that particular question? And of course I lost everything here as I hit a button and I don't know the password. Any comments or questions at the moment that we can go to?
Yeah, we have one comment from Beck who said, my 6th grade daughter didn't know what heterosexual meant, so she said that she selected other, which is a great part of the survey. You can skip questions. You can say, I don't know. If a question makes you uncomfortable, if you don't know, if it doesn't align with your values or your family's values, we completely support that.
Well, and thank you for that comment. I'm going to actually address that specific thing specifically. And so I am going to hold that until the next, but I do promise to answer that question because that's a frequent one that I got. Okay, so back to my big reveal. Do you want to see what last year's data in Estacada looks like based on this very hot topic question? So here you go. To that question for 6th grade, 8th grade, and 11th grade, you can see that 79.8% of our school district declared themselves as straight. That is higher than the state average of 74.4. As you look at where people declared themselves as either lesbian, gay, bisexual, all the way down the list, you can see that Estacada is really pretty much at the state average. And when we talk about these categories, we're talking about 1%, 2% in those specific areas. But in all categories, you can see that children from Estacada are under the state average when it comes to this very political, hot topic, offensive question. And so again, out of full transparency, while I personally, this question doesn't align with my personal values, as the superintendent of the Estacada School District, this data is important for me so I can better understand what we're working with and how best to support the children who come into our classroom each and every single day. Let's keep going because I think you'll find this fascinating. I care a lot about this survey, not necessarily for sexual orientation. I care about it deeply when we're talking about drug usage, alcoholism, bullying, sexual activity, dating violence, and suicide. And this is very instrumental data for us, and this data could not be more important as we try to strategize how we're going to support kids in the year. So here's another one. I think this school welcomes and respects students of all races and ethnicities. If you look at Estacada's data, 11.8% of our school disagrees with that. The state average is 6.2. 7.6 strongly disagree with that. 2.4 is the average. This data tells me that we have an issue with race inside our school. And as we welcome more and more students into our school district, this is absolutely something I have an obligation to work on and work through. And so this piece of data is absolutely paramount to me that we have 18% of our student population who answers this question, no, we do not welcome all races and ethnicities. Here's another big hitter. During the past year, did you ever consider attempting suicide? Our school district represented 9.9% of students in our school district said yes. Dang near 10% of our student population indicated that they were thinking about or considering attempting suicide. Now, the good news is that's below the state average at 11.8, but this is still way too high for my liking. Let's keep going. Have you ever had sex or engaged in sexual behavior with another person? Now, you might find that an invasive, out-of-bounds question, and I don't disagree with you. It's certainly a personal one, but our students answered that question. And look at this data. 17.9% of our students said yes, and that exceeds the state average of 14.4. And even more alarming, when you look at our 11th graders, 33.8% of 11th graders said that they have had sex or sexual behavior with another person, which blows away the state average at 26.7. Do you think that we need to have some educational conversations about this? Do you think that this is a problem inside our community? Our students are telling us so. We need to do something about this. How old were you the first time that you had sex or engaged in sexual behavior with another person? If you look at our Estacada 14-year-olds, you'll notice that 25% of our students indicated that at age 14 is when they started becoming sexually active inside our community. That's a steep increase from when they were 13 years old. And again, this 25% is significantly greater than the 16% of 11th graders across the state. Overall, 24% of our students indicated having sex or sexual behaviors at the age of 14, which is 10 points higher than the state average. I cannot tell you how critical that information is for me, as well as it should be for you and this entire community as we have these conversations with our kids. Let's keep going. You guys having fun yet? Have you ever been pressured or forced to engage in sexual behavior when you did not want to? Estacada, 14.1% of kids said yes. 11% is the state average. We have students doing things that they don't want to do. Whose responsibility is that to work through that process? If you answered parents, that's correct. If you answered the community, that's correct. What role does the school play in it? Probably a little bit. At least we need to have that conversation. Have you ever had a drink of alcohol other than a few sips? Look at this data. Yes. 31% of our 11th graders have said that they've already begun drinking alcohol. That is, 15.4 is about the state average, but 31% of 11th graders is higher than 29% of the state's 11th graders. The good news is our 6th graders, while some are reporting drinking, it is under the state average, but from 8th grade to 11th grade, we begin to exceed the state average. Now, let me just hunker on percentages here just a little bit. We have 188 sixth graders in our schools. And again, not every kid took the survey last year, but we did get a decent enough sample size. And so 6% of sixth graders who are drinking alcohol, that equates to about 11 kids in the sixth grade class are already starting to drink alcohol. In the 8th grade, that represents 19 kids out of that class of 138, I think it is already starting to drink alcohol. And at the 11th grade level, that's a class of 153. 47 of those kids have already begun and are in starting to drink alcohol. And so these are very informative data and facts. Here's a good one that actually I'm surprised by, and I'm excited to share it with you. Have you ever used marijuana in any form? If you look in 2024, 0 of our sixth graders said yes. 5.5% of our 8th graders said yes, and 15.5% of our 11th graders said yes. But really, 5.8% of the 3 grades that took this class said that they've engaged in using marijuana. This is lower than the state average. And so I'm really pleased to see that from the marijuana perspective, we're doing better. And I know that our culture and our community has a stigma of this, and so I'm really pleased to see that our students are using it less than the average, and that's a good thing. Here's my last one, but during the past 30 days, which products have you used when it comes to cigarettes, vape, chewing tobacco, etc.? And if you look here, one of the things that I think is concerning is 22.2% of our 8th graders who took the survey said that they've tried cigarettes within the last 30 days. 8% of our 11th graders said they did cigarettes in the last 30 days. Now our 8th graders, that is significantly higher than the state average, and our 11th graders is significantly lower than the state average. But if you move one down, and vaping is the new trend for the modern student, back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, high school kids were smoking cigarettes. Now vaping has become the new cigarette. But what's interesting is only 22% of students in the 8th grade level are choosing to use vape, which is considerably less than the state average. But if you look at our 11th graders, 66% of the 11th graders who took this survey said that they're doing vape in the last 30 days, and that blows the state average out of the water, which, by the way, is outrageously high at 51%. And so these are really critical data points. And now you can make your own decision based on your own values to determine if this is valuable data to you. That's entirely your call to make. But now I want you to put yourself into my shoes. And as the superintendent, my primary role is to remove barriers for kids to allow them to learn at grade level, to graduate on time with a diploma, and to be competitive and productive in society. This data helps me leverage local community groups for help. It helps me prioritize community needs so that I can be strategic and surgical with the help that is available to us inside Estacada. Now, you might say, Ryan, the school's job is to teach reading, math, and writing. This is the parents' responsibility. It is my business to deal with all this other stuff. You shouldn't be asking this information. But what you don't realize by making that statement, which is not wrong, by the way, I would love to only focus on reading, writing, and mathematics. That would be a dream scenario where our educational institution is all about just that type of education. But what you don't realize is these are the very things that prevent learning. Alcoholism, sex abuse, drug abuse, all of these things create attendance issues, confidence issues, and insecurities that prevent kids from being able to learn. And so we have to know this type of data to inform ourselves of what we can do to remove the barriers. Now, many families, we've got some phenomenal families in this community, and they have got these types of things entirely dialed in. And for those families and for those kids, our priority really is as simply as reading, writing, mathematics, science, social studies, PE, etc. But please don't forget that we're a community where 66% of our students live in poverty. 17% of our students in our school district are served by special education. There are so many students who are in foster care and are homeless. There are so many students that do not have the home supports that you might provide for your family and your child. Whose responsibility is that to work through some of these processes? Unfortunately, based on your opinion, in some cases, the school district is the sole unit to provide sexual education, to provide education about drinking and that kind of stuff. And so I just really want to convey, and I hope I was able to do it in a clear and humble fashion, that this survey is huge for us to be able to make plans of how to support our kids, how to support our community, and to support the culture. Because these things are they're bigger than the schools. It's a shared responsibility of our entire community, the school community, the Estacada community, and installing parent values. Now let me hunker on the community's responsibility on this. This entirely represents, this data entirely represents the culture of our community. Are we promoting safe activities? Are we doing things to build a community culture around what values we want our kids to do? Does our community model the behavior of what right looks like? This is a community challenge, and I ask you to think about those questions. What are we doing now that is leading to more sexual activity in comparison to state norms? What are we doing right now that's leading to an exorbitant amount of vape pens occurring with our 11th grade class? Why are 8th graders smoking so many cigarettes in comparison to the state average? And what is our community's responsibility, and what are we modeling when trying to support that? How about 9.9% of our kids who are considering suicide? How is our community handling this perspective? Now I want to move on to the parents who also have a role and responsibility. Now I know some of you are watching this online being like, it is the parents, it should be the parents. And I agree, the parents are in charge. They have a tremendous and primary role to instill values into their children that should mirror their values and what that looks like. They need to be involved in their child's life. They need to be involved in their child's schooling, and they need to be involved in the activities that their kids are doing. But most importantly, parents, if you're listening to me today, the most important thing that you can do, with the exception of instilling your personal values into your children, the most important thing you can do is model what a healthy relationship looks like. I cannot tell you how many times in the position which I have, where I've had to work with families who have tremendous domestic violence, tremendous domestic abuse, frequent police calls to the house to work through this stuff, and then we're surprised that these kids are hitting teachers, hitting other kids, and doing this type of stuff. If we watch a father treat a mother disrespectfully, you shouldn't be surprised when a student is disrespectful to their female teacher. You shouldn't be surprised when students are engaging in sexual and unhealthy relationships with high school girlfriends or middle school girlfriends. We have an obligation to model what right looks like in the home. And so this is how we, the big three, the school district, the community, and the parents, can all play a role in shaping the lives of a healthy kid. And this is very important data to help us work through those processes. This is what allows me to go to our local pastoral community and say, we have an issue here, can you help? This is where I go to the food bank to say, we have an issue here, can you help? And this data is paramount to that work and to that activity. And so it requires shared leadership and shared ownership from all of us. But I need to talk about the people right now who reactively shared their concerns on social media. Now, first of all, I support social media voice. I don't ever want to be accused of suppressing problems or concerns. By the way, I wouldn't be here on social media with you tonight if I was trying to hide or be non-transparent, or for us to, like I was accused, sweeping this survey under the rug in hopes that parents wouldn't see that. That could not be farther from the truth. That does not represent my values, nor the values of the school board and or this school district. And so I want to say first and foremost, everybody has the right and ability to vomit, talk about, display, whine, anything, cheer on and praise in social media. The problem is when you go straight to social media, it's not a proactive move. It's a reactive move. It's not leadership. Here is how to effectively make change inside your school district if you see a concern or a problem. First of all, when a concern arises in your child's school district, meet first with the person closest connected to that situation, a teacher, a case manager, the vice principal, the paraeducator, the superintendent, the school board. This is where improvement and change happens. Let me give you a scenario, because we had one parent just a couple of days ago call one of our school principals very upset about that very one question about sexual orientation, and literally called our principal a pedophile. What purpose does that serve? What data do you have that draws a direct line from that state-mandated survey question to our principal being a pedophile? That makes no sense, and that's completely unproductive, as well as it is unprofessional. But let's say a student asks a question, just like we saw in the comments during our break, about my child didn't know what bisexual meant. I can't remember what the exact word was, but we'll use bisexual for this example. They might ask their teacher what that looks like, and their teacher may give a response, either by defining what it is, either by saying, I don't know myself, let's look it up, and let's see what that looks like. Again, just trying to remove barriers. Now, some parents will have a quick trigger and say, that's indoctrination. That person is indoctrinating my child on genders that me and my family don't agree with from a values perspective. Okay, so that happened, and I can't guarantee that that won't happen, although I can tell you we have a phenomenal staff, and they are trained and highly skilled in how to help kids work through their own questions and process-making problems. I have full confidence in our teachers, and I will back that entirely. But let's say that that scenario happened, and your child comes home and said, my teacher told me what a bisexual is today. Your first move should not be to go to social media and say, guess what this particular teacher did? I can't believe it. This school district is awful, blah, blah, blah. What needs to happen, the mature response, is for you, the adult parent, to contact the adult professional and say, hey, my kid came home with this. I have some concerns about the interaction that occurred. Could I make time to meet with you just so I could get a better understanding of what happened so that I can have a better conversation with my child? Or B, I can tell you what my family values are, and I would appreciate if you could help me by reflecting those values when working with that child. And that small, simple instance is how we as a team work together to educate your child and improve in areas to meet your satisfaction. That is such a critical piece. And if you're unsatisfied with that conversation, then go to that person's supervisor or go to me, the superintendent. If you go to social media to air out your frustrations, and again, you have the right to do that. By no means am I trying to coach you into doing something that hides anything. I'm just talking about a mature leadership process of how to work through problems inside your child's experience in the school district. But if you go to social media to air out your problem, the truth of the matter is, because I've seen this 100 times, the problem gets lost and it really becomes all about you. And the trolling of these different comments is really just validation to prove your opinion correct. You're collecting thumbs up and validations to make sure and feel like you're right about this particular issue. Well, when it comes to our public school district, it's not about who's right. It's about how we can serve and support your kid. And if you're not satisfied with that, please come and make a meeting with us and let's work through that problem together. It's all about being a team in this community, and the only way that we can tackle some of these hot topics is going through that process. Now, one last thing I want to talk about when it comes to modeling what right looks like. As we work in our school district with no cell phones with our children, as we really try to curb cyberbullying and other types of dangerous behaviors that are occurring, this is a rhetorical question. Please don't get offended by me asking it. But what does it look like when you model going onto social media to air out your grievances about your child's experience? And how is your child supposed to look at that, see that, watch that? They're absolutely going to replicate that in different ways. And so being mindful of how we work through adult problems in our community is absolutely essential to how we solve problems from a leadership perspective. And so the other thing I just wanted to say in conjunction with that is that I have seen in my 17 years of being an educator in Estacada and my 7 years as a superintendent, I have seen a lot of parents who are frustrated about something at this school, and they air out very confidential and sensitive information about their child on the internet. And I cannot tell you the damage that that kind of stuff does. And again, like we tell our students when they're trying to get jobs, don't post any stupid pictures of yourself on the internet, because employers are going to be looking at those things and they may make a judgment to hire you or not based on the pictures that you post on the internet. That is no different when parents are airing very specific, fragile, vulnerable things about their kid and how the district did their kid wrong, but while at the same time airing out all of these things that are harmful to the child. And so as you work through social media and as you work through frustrations and problems both politically, culturally, and even with your local school district, all I ask is that you're mindful and proactive about going directly to the problem and working with it. Your problem is not solved by going straight to social media. Your problem will be solved by coming directly to us and working with that. And so, to conclude, I want to make sure that you have the ability to contact both your elected school board and your superintendent. Please take a screenshot or click on the instant phone picture so that you always have my contact information. One of the things that I think is a tremendous data point for you is that the majority of parents who do have problems do successfully reach out to the local school district to work through them. I want to show you what right looks like. And I actually did a data grab of my own superintendent emails just in the month of October. And in the month of October, I received 4,023 emails. I average 177 emails a day from employees, from parents, and from different outside community partners. My average response time to my emails is 26 hours. I do get back to you. There's times where I'm inundated and sometimes it's longer than others, but I just wanted to share with you that if you do have an issue or a concern, this is your school district. We try to make a school district that aligns with our community's values. If you have an opinion or you want to participate in a change process, this is your first place to go, and I strongly encourage you to do that. We also have an exceptional school board of directors. This is one of the most talented, consistent school boards in the entire state of Oregon that loves Estacada. Some are born in Estacada, some run businesses in Estacada. Many of them have construction backgrounds and business backgrounds. All of them have had kids inside this school district. You could not ask for a more committed group of 7 people. And I want to make sure that they represent you. If you have issues, please reach out and contact them. We are a great team and we work together in addressing those issues. So please never hesitate to reach out to your superintendent or to your school board chair so that we can build that teamwork, we can build that strength, and we can work through issues together. Social media is not the answer to solve your problems. And so in conclusion, I just want to reiterate that the parents of our school district have proven extremely satisfied with the Estacada School District. This is a record score for us, 3.91 out of 5. You're telling us that we're building strong relationships and a supportive culture. You're telling us that we are over-communicating, but we have effective communication, and we're building meaningful learning opportunities. So for those of you who were really worked up about social media, talking about moving kids or staging a walkout or doing all of these very specific things that you were talking about, I just want to let you know, and I want you to see this data, that the majority of our families love sending their kids to our school district, and they believe that we share the same values when it comes to educating these children. We know this because in the 7 years that I've been a superintendent, this school district has grown in enrollment by 21%. We are the only school district in Clackamas County that's not losing enrollment. Families are choosing to send their kids to the Estacada School District over charter schools, over homeschools, over transferring to different schools. And we have a family retention rate of 96.3%. That should tell you that families are sticking with the Estacada School District because they believe in the work that we're doing. And we are achieving the highest student achievement in our school district's entire history. And I hope I was able to share that data with you in this presentation today. Estacada has never been performing as high as it is today. So all that I ask of you is I need your help removing barriers and educating our community. And this data and this survey is paramount to help us work through some of the issues that we would not know existed without this survey. We need your help removing these barriers and educating our community. We can't do it by sheltering ourselves underneath a rock. We have to take the baton, and we have to lead. I want to thank you so much for working through this process with me and allowing me to share our side of this story. And I hope that this transparency at least opens up your eyes in a way that says, while I don't agree with it still, at least I understand it. That's what I'm asking for tonight, and I hope that you'll help in supporting that. All right, Maggie, it's Facebook's turn. Let's give it our best shot.
Yeah, and I want to thank the people watching for really modeling what right looks like. We've had a lot of really respectful dialogue and great questions, so thank you so much. So we're going to roll through them in the order we received them. I wanted to circle back to that question from Beck, who said that her daughter didn't know what heterosexual meant, so she selected other, and then she says that it can be challenging to gauge statistics when students don't even know what they're being asked.
Yeah, no, I think that's a valid point. And this is where the controversy of having sixth graders fill some of this stuff out. I entirely agree with that. Again, I don't have the ability to change that, but I do take it face value. These are sixth graders answering questions that they probably don't know the answers to. And again, all I can speak to you is my own personal experience from this. I have 3 kids in our school district. All 3 of them have taken this survey. There is one occasion where one of my own personal children came home and said, hey, there was a question and it asked me about, this specific sexual orientation. And we in our family used that as a great opportunity to talk about it so that it aligned with our values. But, again, I let my kids take this survey because I'm confident that my wife and I have instilled our family values. And so I feel good about exposing our students or my own children to different worldly things, because as they come home and ask about it, we're well equipped to be able to have that conversation through our own faith and through the own values that we bring in. And I just encourage all families to not miss swinging at that pitch. This is where family values are instilled. And I know there's so many families that instead of answering that question or having that conversation with their kid, they just get mad at us. But you're missing the pitch if you don't get the opportunity to have such a great, deep dialogue about your students' true questions and answers.
And
I love that comment.
when your student selects I don't know, that's also data that the Oregon Department of Health sees when they're considering constructing these surveys, and
Yeah.
when they see that sixth graders are not knowing what some of these questions are.
Yep. And by the way, 14% of our sixth graders checked the box, I don't know. And some of them just answered. Yep.
A question from Larissa, and I'm glad this got brought up because this has been a common one and we're not sure where it came from. She said that my understanding is that the student health survey is that we utilize this specific one because it's free and it will cost the district to create something else. If that's correct, what would the cost be to create a survey more in line with the Estacada School District families in mind? There are some strange questions for sure and creates a lot of community discussion and
Yeah.
concerns.
No, that's a great question. And that is just inaccurate information. So the state has really approved 2 different surveys, both of which are free. I can't remember the name of the second one. North Clackamas School District does the other one. But this is data that the state then collects and creates all that data and stuff. And so if we were to create our own survey or pay a third-party company to do that, we would not be in compliance with the state's requirements. And so really there's 2 surveys that they end up combining together. And so that just really isn't an option for us to choose a different survey. We could choose the other one, which is, it asks the same questions, it does the same things. But we can't choose a third-party one to pick one that aligns better with our community's values because it's a state objective, if that makes sense.
A question from Hannah. She said, until complaints came in, these numbers, assuming the survey data, wasn't shared with parents and is something that is held by you, so now it's becoming public. What these numbers are that I do agree parents should know, but they're only being offered to us because you had complaints.
Sure, that's actually not true. Just 3 meetings ago, our RISE committee just worked through the process. We work through these things with different parent groups, as well as we work with them in an internal organization level. Yes, I have never displayed them publicly. I would say, Hannah, you definitely brought that out for this process. But as we get better, I have no trouble sharing that, but I just wanted to make sure, because some of the things you said were very narrow, and so I wanted to open it up for the parents to better understand, because a lot of the information wasn't entirely accurate. But at the end of the day, this is a public thing. You can find this stuff online when it comes to the state perspective of it, and we do work on this regularly in a public setting, including at the board level.
Rachel said that this is sad information for the community and makes her want to have conversations with her 7th grader about some of these things.
Yes, absolutely. I agree.
Another question from Hannah. There's 2. What does the school plan on implementing to support and or help those with their sexual orientations? I'm curious what that tells you that you need to implement.
Yeah, no, that's a phenomenal question. And the answer is really nothing. We're not doing anything to promote and or support any different transitions. It just gives us a better understanding of what we're working with as we engage with students in learning through that process. So we're not moving kids in any direction. We're not encouraging kids in any direction when it comes to sexual orientation. But if students want to be called he instead of she, if students want to be called Brian instead of Maggie, we do want to honor that because that is either the request of the parents or the request of the students, and that's something that we can work through. So being able to know who our population is just helps us work through the processes.
A question from Laura, who said that her daughter has witnessed sexual activity among students at the school, and how does that happen?
Can you repeat that again? I didn't hear that first part.
Her daughter has witnessed sexual activity among students at school. How does that happen?
Yes, good question, and it does happen. As a former vice principal and principal, I have encountered those things myself. I would recommend that if any child sees any type of activity like that, they need to immediately go find an adult so an adult can work through that process and work with the parents through that process. But yeah, those things absolutely happen, and we need help from students because oftentimes they happen in blind spots, dark corners, in spots where there's not adult supervision at that moment. And so we need the help of everybody to work through that process. We've even had students who have engaged in sexual activity in cars, like in neighborhoods, and either parents who witness this call the police or they call the school, and we work through that. So it does take a village to work through these behaviors, yes.
Kendra said, thank you for going over these stats, and it's eye-opening to know and appreciate the data being given.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Laura commented that she talks to her daughter because it isn't up to the school and she knows how to parent her own child.
Yep, I 100% agree with that. Thank you for taking that on. I wish that all kids had parents like you that were willing to have that conversation. It's critical.
I'm going to consolidate these because this is some back and forth, but Sarah had some questions around saying the school doesn't care because of the dress code and how students are dressing. We had some back and forth with folks saying that they thought the dress code had improved and some just still sharing concerns.
Yeah, thank you. The dress code is a tricky one, very similar to Tardy's and the old cell phone expectations and violations, because to some extent we do have some black and white examples of what is a violation of the dress code, but really at the end of the day, what a legal statute of what a violation of the dress code is something that disrupts education. And so if a kid is walking around with something and it's not really impacting people, we traditionally just kind of let it ride. But when a student is wearing a skirt way too high or a top way too low, or is wearing some type of shirt that is outrageously offensive, then obviously the school comes in and works with the parents in that process. I will tell you, this isn't a popular thing to say. I'm sure I'll get criticized for it, but it's just the truth. Being a vice principal for many years and a high school principal for many years, oftentimes when we would work with a young girl on her dress code being skirt too high or top too low, and we'd pull the kid into the office. Obviously with me, I'd also have a female present to be ethical through those processes, but then we would call the mother to come down, and the mother would actually be very angry with us about our judgment of that dress code. And honestly, quite often, the mother would be wearing the same exact type of clothing as the student. And so they were equally offended. And again, it goes back to that modeling what right looks like. But the dress code is a tricky situation as you work with parents and when you work with students on interpretation of that. And so at the end of the day, we ultimately rely on, is it impacting the educational process? Is it distracting kids from learning? Then we all of the time take action. But I love that question, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to explain that, including giving examples that have happened to me probably 20 times in my career. But at the same time, I really appreciate those questions.
We had a question from Beck who said it would have been nice to receive more advance notice before the survey. Parent Square announced it on October 29th. Was surprised when my kiddo already took it today. Would have liked 2 or 3 weeks of advance notice.
Yeah, you know what? I appreciate that. And one of the things is when we make mistakes, we will own that too. And that fault is entirely mine. I think we could have communicated sooner. I think I could have done a better job, as Hannah pointed out. I think I could have done a better job of explaining what the survey is, how we use the survey. I think if I had been a little more proactive in communicating that to our families, I don't think social media would have been at the reactionary level that it was. And so I do have to take some ownership in that. And as we do this mandated survey again next year, I will certainly do a better job to make sure our parents are more informed. And so thank you for that.
We have a couple comments on just reiterating that it's true that back in their day, there were more conversations, less social media, and another parent that said that the no cell phones has cut back on cyberbullying, which is great to hear.
Yeah, I agree. Here's another data point. Even though I shared with you that our sexual activity is high, I'm going to knock on wood before I make this statement. But one of the things that we haven't had in the last 2 or 3 years is students who are pregnant and in school. During the early 2000s, we seem to have more students who were actively pregnant while going through high school, and I have seen a significant reduction in that. And so that's just a data point that's neither good nor bad. It's just a data point that I've also noticed, which I think is worthy of mentioning here.
We had a question from Hannah who said, why does Summit not have to take the survey?
Summit is a charter school. This is for K-12 public institutions, and so they don't participate in that particular survey, but they do participate in other state-mandated things.
We have a question from Stephanie about, and this is referring to an individual, so I'll put it up and see, Superintendent Carpenter, what you'd like to say about it.
Okay.
They ask how we justify promoting someone that oversaw IDEA violations that resulted in due process decisions against the district.
Oh, yeah. No, thank you. I appreciate that question. You know, obviously that's a pending litigation, and we're actively working through that. In fact, our district's intent is to fully appeal that decision, which should be coming in the next couple weeks. I appreciate you. I appreciate your family, and I do hope that we can have some positive resolution. But at this time, as you know, that's not something I can comment on.
A question from Beck, how do we stop vaping in bathrooms? She says that her daughter holds it in because she doesn't want to encounter it in the bathroom.
Yeah, it is a real issue. Bathrooms are the unsupervised place, and obviously there's good reasons for that. We have tried some different pieces of technology, but have not landed on one that's been reliable. There are things called vape detectors, and we've had multiple vape detectors in all of our high school and middle school bathrooms, and we have been successful on some occasions of catching students who are vaping because the vapor kind of changes the airflow, but unfortunately for some students, we have also caught some students just going to the bathroom, if you know what I mean, because the smell changes the air as well. And so we haven't just found any type of technology that helps with that, but that's where student vigilance is extremely helpful for us as well. And we try our best to protect the anonymity of who tells us these things. But at the end of the day, that's a really tricky one for us. And vapes are so sneaky too, because kids have the ability to just pull it out. They look like a thumb drive or a zip drive. They're pretty footprint free. They're pretty odor free. And so I'll be honest, vapes have been a real challenge, not only for Estacada, but for schools across the country in trying to mitigate that.
We had a question, what about the sport dress code?
Yeah. That's a good question. Maybe that person could expand more for me on that. I don't know, is that like our uniforms or is that what kids are wearing? I will tell you, in last year's basketball program, it drove me nuts when kids arrived at visiting gyms wearing pajamas, but that's just a personal opinion of mine. I like to see our athletes dressed professionally, but that's a different thing.
And it looks like our last question from Lori, who says that the survey was terrible. She opted her student out and says that her 8th grader would have been better off utilizing the time to go to the high school and learn more about trade and technical career support opportunities. It's not the school's job to educate kids on sexual orientation.
Yeah.
And those situations should be one-on-one.
Yeah, I think that that's a fair opinion, and you're absolutely entitled to that. I'm glad that you were able to opt your kid out, and I do think that your point about kids engaging in education is extremely important, and maybe there's an opportunity for us, for the students who do opt out, we do find some type of activity or send them to their regularly scheduled class. I mean, it gets conducted in the class that they're in, and it typically takes about 30 minutes. It's not super invasive in terms of the timing. But your point is well noted, and again, I 1,000% respect your values and your decision to opt the kid out. I'm 100% okay with that.
And a follow-up on the uniforms was volleyball and cheerleading programs.
Yes, okay, that's a good one, and I do agree. Volleyball has traditionally worn, outfits that definitely show a lot of leg. I am seeing more and more volleyball girls in uniforms wearing more like the tight, long length black, kind of pants with the knee pads on. But again, it's a pretty cultural thing of volleyball in that process. And of course, as we know, cheerleaders since the 1950s have been wearing skirts and those types of things. And so again, it's cultural there as well. But I would like to think that the Estacada School District at least respectfully, wears the uniforms of that culture and doesn't do so in a way that disrupts, the educational process or distracts from parents and fans being able to cheer for their kids and their skills, not necessarily the clothing that they're wearing. But I do appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
And that is all of our questions. Thank you again, everyone, for engaging in a really respectful dialogue and on what can be a pretty emotional and tough topic.
Yeah, and I just want to, as I close, I just want to say thank you. Again, this was an awesome opportunity for us to engage in a true and authentic two-way communication. I'm not asking you to entirely agree with me. I'm not trying to convince you to change your own values in support of anything specific. I just wanted you to gain a better understanding of where we're coming from and how this serves as an opportunity. And while I appreciate the work that occurred on social media, and there's no doubt about it, again, I came on Facebook Live to share the parent rollout. This was an opportunity for me to address that, but I have no trouble sharing this data and being better at that with families. That didn't drive this conversation, but at the end of the day, that conversation tells me that the school district needs to be better at communicating the why in some of these hot topic issues. And so we will commit to being better at that, and we will commit to keep coming back to social media to work through these processes together, because we are one community, and the parents, the community, and the school district all plays a role in shaping the lives of these kids. And I just cannot thank you enough for allowing me the latitude to come and talk about it, and most importantly, for believing in your local school district and continuing to send your kids here. It means a great deal to us. It's something that we cherish, and we want to continue to build that trust together. And I hope you take that for the authentic value that it is. Have a great night, and we'll see you around town. Thanks so much.